Make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon if you want to be notified of any future shows. Feel free to leave comments down below, and please smash that thumbs up. It helps the show out. Hello, folks. I realized that I hadn't done any updates on my supplements since last year. Last year I did a 24-hour experiment and all of that. And what I discovered in that experiment is that if I don't take the supplements, it does definitely make a difference. Since then, I've actually honed supplements I take a little bit and made some changes. And actually, I just recently came across this supplement. It's calcium, magnesium, and zinc with vitamin D3. That kind of covers several bases, especially for men. Magnesium and zinc is important, but you know, it's good for bone and muscle health. So at Walmart, it's not too expensive. The D3 for me is not very strong. This only has, what is it, 600 IU of D3. I take more along 5,000 IU a day of D3. But the other stuff is good. You know, it's 100%. Everything else. Let's see. Yeah. So this supplement, calcium, magnesium, and zinc at Walmart, is pretty good. I'm adding that for the calcium, magnesium, and zinc, not so much the D3. I'm still doing D3 separately. I've also, instead of taking a B complex, I'm taking B12. What I've found is that specifically B12 helps with the weakness and the MS fatigue. If I take 5,000 micrograms 3 times a day, maybe 3 or 4 times a day, for several days, I noticed that my walking improves. I can almost walk completely normal, as long as I'm religious about taking it regularly, multiple times a day. B12 is supposed to be for nerve function and for energy, you know, clarity of thought, I think, is one of them. In any case, what I know is that it definitely helps. If I don't take it, I walk like a 90-year-old man. When I do take it, and you know, I even fall and everything else. When I do take it, I walk a lot better, and I can stand up longer without, you know, starting to crumple over from the weakness or fatigue. That's a big one, the B12. The neurologist also had me on Ampera, which is called the walking pill. And I have found that I actually get more benefit from the B12 than I do the Ampera. I think the Ampera does help in a very similar way, but the B12 definitely does more for me than the Ampera does. So I just wanted to let y'all know about that. And you know, something I noticed is that I don't really know for sure if it's definitely a result of the Ampera, but I've never in my life had swollen feet. And here a few months ago, back in say October, I ran out of the Ampera and I'd moved to Louisiana. So I needed to find a new doctor down there and you know, go through all of that, get a neurologist because my Ampera prescription was up. Well, I noticed about a week after I stopped taking the Ampera, I mean, my feet swole, I mean, huge. And it was weird because it wasn't both equally. It would be like the left one more than the right one. Then maybe the right one more than the left one. Sometimes both. Sometimes one would be slightly swollen and the other one would be a lot swollen. I mean, it's just helter-skelter. It doesn't make any sense. And I said, well, I don't know what's going on here. I've never had this happen before. I thought maybe there's too much salt in my diet, so I cut way back to 0 on the salt. I thought, well, maybe it's too many carbohydrates because they'll cause you to retain water. Cut back on my carb. Nothing helped. And then I got my Ampera back, and within 3 days, I think it was, the swelling went away. And then, of course, I moved back up to Alabama, and then I ran out of my Ampera again. My feet swole up again within, like a week, 3 days to a week after I ran out of the Ampera. My feet start swelling again. And it's been about a month, I think. What is this? March. It's been 2 months. My feet have been swollen every day. Switching back and forth and more and less and all of that stuff ever since I ran out of that Ampera. So I don't know what is going on, if that Ampera made a change to my body that it has to have it now or what. And to be honest with you, Adam, I'm not positive. It could be a coincidence that both times I went off of it, I experienced something I have never experienced in my entire life. So I have to get a prescription refilled, and I'll start taking the Ampera again and see if the swelling goes away again. And I'll experiment with that and find out, and I'll let y'all know what happens. I think that's very odd. I don't understand why removing something, medication, would cause my body to react and to not get over. I mean, it's been 2 months, although it does look like it's not as bad as it was for the first couple of weeks. So it seems like whatever it is improving over time. So I might just go without for a while and see if it goes back to complete normal to establish that, and then go back on the Ampera for a while and then off of it again and see if it happens again, just to find out, because I think that's something that people should know. And I think that's something I should, to me, that means that it could be a warning sign that whatever that Ampera is doing is not very good for you. And maybe it's not worth it, especially if you can use the B12 in place of the Ampera and get the same effects. Okay. I've covered this before, but I'm going to cover all the supplements that I currently take. I'm almost out of this. I have to get some more. This right here, I get it at Amazon, bulksupplements.com, acetyl L-carnitine. This is huge. This stuff here, when I was in the hospital, I think I've covered this before, but maybe not in detail. When I was in the hospital, and I mean, the nurses had to help me do everything, even roll over in the bed. And when I went the doctor asked me something that I thought was interesting. And I might have covered this in one of my other videos, but I'm going to revisit it. He asked me how I made it to 52 years old without ever being diagnosed. And I said, well, I don't know. And he said, nobody's ever even mentioned MS to you. And I said, no. So he was shocked. And he said he didn't understand how that could be. So that made me get on my computer, because I wanted to know too, why have I made it to 52 and never been diagnosed? And I was diagnosed with relapsing remitting, not progressive, because progressive, I guess men can get progressive later in life, but usually it's in their 30s, 30s to 40s, I guess. But I don't have progressive. I have relapsing remitting, which means I've had it probably since my late teens, early 20s. I know for a fact, I can think back, and some of the symptoms that I now know are MS, I was starting to have in my early 20s at least, possibly earlier than that, because there's some things that happened when I was younger that were unexplainable that possibly could have been MS, but there's no way to tell for sure. But early 20s, definitely. Anyway, so I got on the internet and I found out that the Mayo Clinic was prescribing 3 things that I had been doing for a long time. One was a ketogenic diet. I wasn't always on a ketogenic diet, but I've never been big on carbs, and I've always been big on high fat diet. I just liked high fat food a lot more. So that's the way I ate, And when I was in the Army, they did a health test or a health screening on us, and they were kind of shocked that my cholesterol was actually low. And then they wanted to counsel me on cholesterol, and I said, why? My cholesterol is low, right? Well, that doesn't mean it will always be low. I'm like, yeah, whatever. Of course, I was young and being a punk and didn't really want to sit there any longer. But my cholesterol was low, but I was eating a high-fat diet. High-fat, low-carb, I'd say, even if I was doing bad one day, I'd probably not do more than 100, maybe 150 on a really bad day, 150 grams of carbs. Most of the time, my carbs were 50 grams, maybe. That was probably my average for a day. So, I mean, basically, I was doing a diet. What do they call it? Not dietary ketosis. I can't think of what it is, but it was a version of a ketogenic diet with a little bit higher carbs, is all. And I've always been doing that my whole life since I was a kid. I've also always ate once a day. And I mean, my mother used to get all over me and say, that's bad for you and all that stuff. And I was like, well, I'm not hungry. And I wasn't hungry because I was basically ketogenic and I was only eating once a day. So I was intermittent fasting. I guess that's 4 things. It was intermittent fasting, high fat diet, high fat, low carb diet. And later in my 30s, I started with supplements. And actually that was because of a MS symptom that I talked to a doctor on ask.com. And I said, isn't this a symptom of MS? And he said, there's no way you have MS. The odds you have MS at your age are slim to none. And then he asked me if I had a neck injury. I told him I fractured C1, 2, and 3 in high school when I was wrestling. He said, that's what it is. It's calcifying, blah, blah, blah. It's putting pressure on your myelin sheath, probably wearing it away. So I went and studied what can you do to try to maintain the health of your spinal cord. And I ran across nothing that talked about it specifically, but that this supplement here is actually good for neurologic health. It's good for brain health. It's good for, now it doesn't say it in any literature anywhere, but based on what it does, I came to the conclusion that it has to help with the myelin sheath, because this transports fat to your nerve cells and to your spinal cord. Your brain and your myelin sheath are made of fat. So this transports fat at the nuclear level, the mitochondria, and that to your brain cells and your myelin sheath. And I said, well, if anything's going to help my myelin sheath remain healthy, it's going to be directly providing it fat, the building blocks that it needs to remain healthy. So I've been taking this for a long time. I also took, I wish I could remember the name of the other supplement that they were prescribing at the Mayo Clinic. You could probably look it up. But I was taking that one too, but later when I got trying to get back into shape and was bodybuilding and stuff. So for a very long time, I've been unwittingly holding off relapses and minimizing the damage that the relapses were doing to my body. And what I finally got me hospitalized was when I went off of them for 1.5 years. I was doing nothing. As a matter of fact, I was doing a standard American diet and eating just terribly for that time because I was starting a YouTube channel. I wanted to become a personal trainer or a consultant, that kind of thing. So I was starting a YouTube channel on weight loss and fitness and that kind of thing. And I said, well, since I have to do this anyway, let me put on some weight And then I will, when I get out, when I finish my recovery from the surgery, I'll do a series where people can lose weight and get into shape with me. And that was the plan. So I said, well, I need to gain probably 20 pounds so that there's something to lose, because 10 pounds, first 10 pounds you lose is always water. That's what it is when you go low carb, you're going to lose 10 pounds immediately. And that's because of water, because carbohydrates make you retain water. And when you reduce them or eliminate them in a keto diet, the first 10 pounds are the water that you've been retaining because of the carbohydrates. So I knew I had to go at least 20 pounds, to show an actual change in my body fat ratio content. So that's the way it's always been. And then when I saw that the Mayo Clinic was prescribing a ketogenic diet and 2 of the supplements I was taking to MS patients to help, I think it was to help hold off relapses. Actually, let me look it up here. Let's see. Bear with me and I'll put it up on the screen there, folks. I think the Mayo Clinic MS, right? MS treatment. Let's see what that says. I want the Mayo Clinic. Whatever. These are just a bunch of ads. Beta interferons. Now let me try MS treatment supplements. See if that'll. I can't remember what the search was I did that came up with it. Might have just looked up MS supplements or the MS treatment supplements or something. Treatment for relapsing MS proven to cut relapses. Hold on, folks. Let's see who this is. I have no idea. All right, anyway. Mayo Clinic. Vitamin D seems most helpful to people naturally low blood levels. Any connection? Oh, here we go. Acetyl. Here we go. Mayo Clinic, right here. This is the one. Let's see. Switch it over so you guys can see it. There we go. Okay. So, did that switch back? No. Okay. Acetyl L-carnitine, can it relieve MS fatigue? Dietary supplement acetyl L-carnitine may reduce fatigue and multiple sclerosis. Is true. There isn't enough evidence to know whether acetyl L-carnitine. When is this article from? This might post date when I was in the hospital. Anyway, acetyl L-carnitine, form of blah blah blah. Fatigue is a common symptom, but the cause of the fatigue isn't well understood. As for treating fatigue, some studies have suggested that supplements could ease MS-related fatigue in people with low blood levels of L-carnitine. Yeah, I didn't have low blood levels. But additional studies have had inconclusive results showing a possible but not statistically significant benefit. Acetyl L-carnitine MS-related fatigue. Although acetyl L-carnitine generally has few or mild side effects, it can interfere with blood thinning medications and other drugs. So if you decide blah blah blah, that's not what I read. I read that the Mayo Clinic was actually prescribing it to MS patients. It might have been in a study. Maybe this post dates me being in the hospital. But in any case, this is where I came up with the idea because I was taking it, and I put 2 and 2 together. If I was taking it, and then when I stopped taking it, I had a relapse, so I actually had it shipped to the hospital. You've probably seen this in the other video. I had the acetyl L-carnitine shipped to the hospital room. I kind of mega dosed. I took basically 3, whatever. I would take only one, about 2 grams in the morning, just what I took every day. I took 2 grams at every meal 3 times. And the next morning, completely different. I was able to stand up. I was able to use a walker instead of a wheelchair. The feeling started coming back in the bottom of my foot. And I was taking, and every day from then, I got better. Everybody, the occupational therapists, were remarking on how every single day I was getting like a lot better, and how I was able to walk and all of that stuff. I mean, they were telling me I was going to be in a wheelchair, even though I didn't completely lose the use of my right leg, that I was going to be in a wheelchair, or I should use a wheelchair, and at most a walker. Now, when I was towards the end of my rehab, I told them that I wanted them to, show me how to walk with a cane. They told me that it wasn't a good idea for me to do that because, I'm not that stable. That's what I use right now. I use a cane. I've been using a walker around the house here recently because my knee got messed up real bad by. I think I've covered it in the last video. My wife was very abusive, and she hurt me pretty badly, my knee. And it's just now getting stable enough to where I can use just a cane, or even walk around the house without anything at all now. But anyway, when I was in the hospital, they refused to teach me how to walk with the cane because they thought that it was just something they shouldn't do because it could be dangerous. And if I finally talked to the day before I got out, they said, okay, well, we'll take an hour and show you how to walk with a cane because you're probably going to do it anyway. So they showed me. I don't do it the way they say it, the way that they said anyway, but because they teach you to walk with a cane so that you can use the cane to support yourself. First of all, I can't hold a cane because my hand, I'm completely unaware of when the cane is like slips in my hand. So the thing is always cocking sideways, and then if I try to put any weight on it, I fall. So I have to use one of those that comes up and it has the thing that goes around your arm. That's what I use. And I don't really use it to support my weight unless I start to fall. I use it to catch myself, but I use it basically for balance. So I know, I can walk, but I get that instability. So I use it just to find the ground, so I know that I'm walking straight and I'm not flipping over. And if I do start to go over, I can use that to catch myself. That's all I use it for. I don't really need it to support my weight or anything like that. So anyway, I've lost my place. So those are the supplements I use. Let's see. I use D3. I use large doses of D3, large doses of B12. Now, I asked the doctor said because B12 is water soluble, you can take as much of it as you want to. It ain't going to do anything. All that's going to happen is that anything that your body does not use will just come out when you urinate. So it's not harmful at all. So I use high, and the only reason my sister was diagnosed with MS back in 2006, and her doctor has her taking, I think it's 10,000 IU a day of vitamin D3, or was anyway. She got a different doctor now. So I don't know if she's still on it, but she was taking a huge amount of D3 every day. So I've been taking that. Well, I started out at 2,000 and now I go anywhere from 2,000 to 5,000. So I was doing 2,000 when I was bodybuilding. Now I'm doing 5,000 because of the MS, since I got diagnosed. So I've upped that to about 5,000 IU a day. Depends. If I can only get the 2,000s, I'll take maybe 2 of them a day. 4,000. If I get the 5,000 IUs, I'll take 1 of those every day. So I do high doses of vitamin D3. And the D3, what I found that it helps, and the reason I was taking it to begin with, is that it helps with joint function. Like I had a lot of pain in my knees, and I started taking D3. And the best source, I'm telling you, the supplements that you get, D3, do not do the same. I mean, they do, but not the same way. There is a slight difference between taking a D3 supplement and spending time in the sunlight. And the more skin you're showing, the better. I used to go out naked, do yard work, mow the lawn. I mean, I lived out in the middle of the country. We were surrounded. The nearest neighbor was like a mile away. But I used to spend the entire day out there. And it's not unhealthy for you, because when you get a tan, that's your body's natural sunscreen. So as long as you don't let yourself burn, when you get dark, I mean, I was really dark. I could stay out there in the middle of the summer, sun beating down on me for hours. I wouldn't overheat. I wouldn't, feel like I was getting heat stroke. I mean, your body is able to regulate itself better. It really does protect you from the sun. But in any case, the more skin that you show, the better you're going to feel. I found if I'm out there, the minimum I want to stay out there naked is about 30 to 40 minutes. At 20 minutes, I start to feel this feeling like, when you take a shot, you drink, and you get that strange feeling seeping through your muscles when that alcohol first hits you. It's a similar sensation, but obviously it has nothing to do with alcohol. But it's a similar sensation where you can suddenly feel the D3 starting to like relax your muscles and that kind of thing. But I noticed that when I started supplementing D3, the pain in my joints went away. Like right now, I've been off D3 for a while. I actually finally was able to get this yesterday. And I'm starting to get pain in my knuckles and stuff. And so I'm hoping in a couple of days it'll go away now that I have some D3, even though it's only 800. I still need to get some more, but I'm trying to get caught up on bills after that whole debacle with my soon-to-be ex-wife. Anyway, so yeah, the D3 was for joint pain at first, and it really does help. But then I guess it's also for hormones. I mean, there are other things that D3 is good for. But that was the primary reason I took it when I started lifting, because obviously it's hard to lift weights if your joints are hurting when you put pressure on them. But I do high doses of D3, high doses of B12. That B12 does wonders. Let me tell you something. It helps with the fatigue. I don't know exactly what MS fatigue is. I've been calling it that weak feeling. Like if I'm standing too long and I just start to collapse because my muscles are losing strength. But I mean, it's like weakness, but I always assume that's fatigue because I don't actually just get tired. I mean, I do find that I have to take a nap in the daytime, but I think that's because I don't sleep good at night, which is definitely a symptom of MS. I mean, I only sleep for about 4 or 5 hours at a time. So I take a nap in the middle of the day. Other than that, I don't feel fatigue in that way. So for me, the MS fatigue has to do with like when you feel like you've worked out to muscle failure. That's the sensation I get. And then I just start to collapse and it gets hard for me to stand up and I have to lean on things. That to me, well, the B12 helps with that immensely. The B12 also helps with my accuracy in moving my limbs and stuff. I don't get that stuttery jerkiness in my legs and stuff, or my arms, because I do have it slightly in my arms and obviously my hands too. That's where it's hard for me to move a mouse and draw, but it eases that up as well. So I got D3, B12, the acetyl L-carnitine that helps with neurological function. I mean, they use that in Alzheimer's patients. I think they use it for what's the word? I can't think of the word. Autism. I think they use it for autism as well. They also put autistic kids on a ketogenic diet because high fat is good for neurological tissue. The brain is completely fat, people. Your brain is not going to stay healthy if you're on a low fat or no fat diet, because you have to give it fat. Sugar is the only carbohydrates, I should say, is the only non-essential macro that there is. Fat and protein are essential. That means you have to consume fat. You have to consume protein or you will die. Carbohydrates, sugar, you can go your entire life and never ever consume a carbohydrate and live completely healthy. Your body creates the sugars with the sucrose, whatever, that it needs. If it needs any, it creates it itself out of the proteins and the fats. So you don't ever have to consume it. Your body will take care of itself where carbohydrates are concerned. But it cannot do anything about fat and protein deficit. And if you have a fat deficit, there are no building blocks for your brain, for your neurological tissue. You have to eat fat. And if you go on a high fat diet, all the better. And it's good for neurologic disorders. It's good for nerve function. And along with the acetyl-L-carnitine, that helps with the energy in the nerves. It also, they prescribe acetyl-L-carnitine for people who have had traumatic brain injuries to help it heal. This and a ketogenic diet. It's a no-brainer. No pun, the pun intended, I guess. It's a no-brainer that you have to concentrate on fat if you're trying to heal or improve the neurological function, because the energy provided by fat and the building blocks themselves, of which D3 is a fat-soluble vitamin, but it also helps with hormones and so forth. So D3 is important. The B12, the acetyl-L-carnitine. With the D3, you have to take calcium because D3 and calcium are necessary. They have to work together. So at Tums, if you take just the D3 is standalone D3, just get some Tums and take a Tums with it. That's what they gave me in the hospital. I was like, really? I didn't even realize Tums had calcium, but I guess calcium carbonate. I just thought it was a different form, but I guess it's still usable. So B12, D3, acetyl-L-carnitine, calcium, and what else? Oh, I also noticed that taking the beta-serin shots, that my sweat smells different. So I think that the alkalinity in my body has changed. So what I did was I'm drinking alkaline 9+ alkaline water, high pH water, and I noticed that when I drink this, my sweat changes back again. So it's definitely somehow, I don't know if it's directly or indirectly, but somehow these shots that I'm taking have changed the alkalinity in my body. It's made my sweat smell different. So I'm using the alkaline water to increase my pH, and it does have an effect. It does help. Did I cover everything? Yeah, I saw a YouTube video, Selma Blair, and evidently this girl, it's hit her in a whole different way. It seems to be attacking her brainstem or something, or at least it has. MS can attack you anywhere. It's helter-skelter. It just doesn't make sense. But I guess depending on, maybe where it started attacking you, you probably tend to get the same attacks over and over again. Something like that. But this girl, man, it's messed with her speech. Obviously her walking is a little messed up, not as bad as mine, but her walking is messed up. Honestly, I wish I could walk as good as at least she did in the video I saw. But she has taken, what'd she do? What do you call it? The cell treatment. I can't think what those cells are called. Anyway, she's taken that treatment, which is basically like chemo, trying to kill or reset her immune system, I guess is what it was supposed to do. I don't know. I'm looking to try and get caught up on what happened with her. It looks like I saw her in an interview afterwards, which must have been some time afterwards because she went bald during the treatment. And then I saw her later. She had short hair, so which had to be at least 6 months or a year later because, you know, hair only grows so much at a time. So, and she's saying that she hasn't, at that point, she hadn't quite completely regained function yet. So my impression was either she was trying to lead everyone to believe that the jury was still out, or the jury is still out. I would have thought that she would have known, at least if it worked, you know, much by that time. But she didn't seem to know if it worked yet. So maybe it just means she hadn't had a relapse or whatever. But I'd like to know, you know, what happened with her. Anyway, I'm starting to ramble on, people. 37 minutes so far. So take those supplements. If you're suffering from MS, take those supplements and leave a comment below. Let me know if they worked for you, you know, and if there are any other vitamins or supplements that you have found effective, you know, please let me know. Okay. So until next time, y'all take it easy. Make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon if you want to be notified of any future shows. Feel free to leave comments down below, and please smash that thumbs up. It helps the show out.